Welcome back to a special segment of Good News Covington County. Of course, I'm Brother John, and I'm here with my partners in crime, Jared and Joshua. And then we've got a guy with us that I'm not a partner in crime with because he's not a criminal. And this is twins, Blake Turman and John Jabers. It's really Blake Turman and Blake Turman. Blake is running for sheriff of Covington County in what's going to be, I think, a vigorous race, running against a couple of pretty good fellas, and he's a fine person himself. I don't think there's anybody better running for the office than Blake is either. Now, I don't know Blake that well, but that's probably to his advantage. I'm sure he doesn't want to know me that well. I told him that we're not going to endorse anybody, because if I endorsed him, it'd probably cost him votes. But we just want him to get to know you, and for you to get to know him. I can tell you, I didn't know him much before this, but he's an impressive character. Blake, thank you for coming on and spending the time with us.
Thank you for having me, John. Appreciate it.
I really appreciate it. I think that you're running for a very important office in the county. I don't think, as we discussed earlier, most people in the county don't realize constitutionally, and when I say that, according to the Alabama State Constitution, 1917, it's one of the most important offices in any county. And so when you're voting for a sheriff out there, then it's real important that you understand you're not just voting for a guy that is going to put people in jail. You're voting for a guy that has a much higher civil responsibility than that, because if something happens, probate judge's office or something like that, God forbid that should ever happen, he is the man that would have to take over operations for that. So it's really important when you talk with somebody like Blake that you determine what his administrative experience is as well, because you don't just have to administer the deputies that are out there.
That's right.
Picking up people. You've got to administer a separate budget with the jail, away from your law enforcement, that kind of stuff. Anyway, I've talked way too much. Tell us about yourself.
Blake Turman. I'm from Opp, Alabama. I was raised right here in Covington County. I went to Opp High School, graduated in 1991. And I was an honor graduate. It was an honor for me to graduate from Opp High School. I was raised in Opp. My parents are David and Sheila Turman. Grandparents are Byron and Sarah Gooden, and Shirley and Merle Turman. I have law enforcement's been in my family for quite some time. My granddaddy was police chief in Opp many years ago. Yeah. And it's something I've always aspired to do, to be a police officer. I can remember my dad, me telling my dad that, hey, Daddy, I want to be a cop just like my granddaddy. And he said, well, son, if you're going to be a cop, you need to set your aspirations high. You need to be a trooper. You need to be a sheriff, the sheriff of this county. So that's been my goal. I had 3 goals in life well, actually more than 3 goals, but I wanted to be a soldier, I wanted to be a trooper, and I wanted to be a sheriff of this county. And the first 2 I've completed.
Right.
And, now I want to be the sheriff of this county, but it doesn't come without a lot of deep prayer. The sheriff is a huge responsibility. I've been preparing myself for this position for 22 years as a trooper, and actually more than that. We get taking my leadership courses in the military, and I want to be a leader in this department. And oftentimes, me and my wife would pray about it, and friends that I have really close to me, we would talk about it and pray about it and everything. I'll admit, there's times I didn't want to do the sheriff thing. It's a lot of responsibility. But God kept leading me to do the sheriff. Mm-hmm. So we just kept praying about it, and it was a little over 2 years ago. Me and my wife, we had just finished up our Sunday school lesson at night. We do our lessons at night when we're laying in bed. And my wife always throws her arm over and prays for me at night. And I know she's doing it, and I can't sleep unless she does throw her arm over me. And when she finished, she said, "Blake, I just got a piece. I think you need to run for sheriff." And I said, "Kim, that's what I've been needing to hear." because I've been having that piece too. But it is something
Well,
that you involve your wife with that.
That's what I was going to say.
Right.
Once you're, I don't know if you knew Bryce, Paul, but Bryce and I were roommates in college and kept in touch till the very end with him.
Yeah.
And what I learned from Bryce is that being in law enforcement, period, it's not a job, it's a calling.
That's
and
right.
Your wife is just as involved in it as you are.
That's
and,
right.
And people don't realize that. It's kind of like being a minister's wife. It's
And-
a tough call.
And with my wife is she's always been there for me when I come home from a hard night's work, and she'll help pick the splinters and stuff out of me, and I've come home scraped and bruised, and she's there to help me and everything. My wife is my partner in life,
Right.
and I keep her close to my heart and everything. But my wife is a school teacher, and that's what she does. And what I want her to always be is a school teacher and my wife. She's there to provide comfort, and she's there to be my partner. And if I need her, she's always there. And she's my best friend.
Well, I think that's real important. We're going to have to take a break now in just a minute, but when we get back, I want you to talk about, your background in terms of your education and experience. Give you a minute to prepare that.
Sure.
And we'll go from there. Thanks for watching Good News Covenant County. We'll be back in just a minute. Welcome back to Good News Covenant County. I'm the luckiest guy in Covenant County today. I'm getting to make a new friend. Oh, and I don't undervalue the word friend. Really, it's not something that I throw around, but I am getting to know somebody that didn't know really well before, other than just to say hello to, and that's Blake Turman. He's running for sheriff here in Covenant County, and he's taking some time out from what I know to be a very busy schedule.
A lot of walking.
Yeah, I'm sure, to come in here and visit with us and give you an opportunity to get to know the man that's running for one of the most important offices in the county and in the state. Now, Blake, when we left, we were talking about your background, and you said that, that the three things that you wanted to be in life were a soldier,
Right.
a state trooper,
And the sheriff.
and a sheriff, and that you'd gotten two of the three out of the way, and you were talking about how you and your wife had for 2 years prayed, or really probably more than two,
A
but
lot more than two.
had prayed about your decision to do that. But 2 years ago, it became apparent during a prayer that your wife had what the right call was, and that's where we left off. And I'd like for you to, if you can, kind of pick up there and talk about the training that you've had and your experiences, those kind of things. Let these people know that how qualified you really think you are for this office, Blake.
Well, I'm going to start with my training when I was around 18 or 19 years old when I joined the military. I joined the Army. I went off to basic training, was stationed at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, the 101st Airborne Division. I was in the infantry unit, and I loved it. I met a lot of good people there, and I learned how to not only to be a leader, but to be a follower. You have to be a follower to be a leader first. And I had some great NCOs. I went to the primary leadership and development course while I was there, air assault school. I've just done all kinds of stuff in the military. But the cool thing is I learned how to not only to be treated, but how to treat people.
Right.
Once I got out of the military, I come back home to Opp, Alabama. I went to junior college for a little while at LBW, and I worked at the cotton mill. And even while at the cotton mill, I learned how to treat people. I even had a boss man out there who was just a good guy to me, and he knew I aspired to be a state trooper, and he encouraged that. Even though I worked for him at the cotton mill, he still encouraged me to follow my dreams. And then I became a state trooper. I went off to the Trooper Academy in Selma, Alabama, old Craig Air Force Base.
I know it.
And I spent 6 months there learning how the ins and outs of being a state trooper through, accident investigation and traffic stops. So it's just a lot of the academy that we go through really gets into the weeds with everything a police officer is responsible for. That's why it takes so long to train a trooper.
Right.
Well, I was trained to be a trooper, when I got to the road here in I was come out of Evergreen. I was stationed in Butler County. I had two training officers. One was Willie Locke, who used to be a trooper here in Covington County.
I know who you're talking
and
about.
And Gene Lyles, and those two men taught me how to be a trooper, how to treat people, how to effect an arrest without being just a total bad guy.
Yeah.
And I worked with Todd Grimes here in Covington County. Todd is a great guy. He too was one of my mentors. I had a sergeant at that time, Randolph Lambert. Now he's been retired a long time, but
I remember Mr. Lambert.
he is one of the greatest sergeants I've ever worked for, and I've worked for a lot of good sergeants. I have a good sergeant now, Derek Gesner. He's from the Evergreen area, and he's a great guy. But all these guys that I've worked for over the years, and I've learned a lot from them. And I've also been a state trooper supervisor. I supervise the men out on the road, and I apply that to the guys that I supervise. I hope that being a good Christian, which I strive to be a good Christian, a good daddy, a good husband, and a good friend helps me be a good supervisor and a good leader. I think it all works together. And the training that I've received, I've been to numerous courses through the Montgomery Command and Staff College, the National Incident Management. I have a very long resume. I'll be honest with you, it just takes a long time for me to run it all down. But I've been through the courses and everything, and I've led my men for 22 years. And I want to see this leadership that I've learned go to the sheriff's office here in Covington County. I got a lot to offer these guys. I like to monitor them. I'd like to, if they do good, I want them to be treated good.
Right.
If they do bad, I want to fix the problem and move on. And I want my guys to actually enjoy and love to come to work. And I want to give them the ability to make decisions. Mm-hmm. And if they make a decision that's not what it should be, well, we'll evaluate that and we'll move on from there. We'll fix the problem and move on. But it's a challenge to me to work with people and get the most out of them. Because when they go home at the end of the shift, they can honestly say, you know what, I did a good job today, and I'm ready to go back and do it tomorrow.
Yeah, that's so important. That sounds like something. There was a guy from Op that I had when I was a young man named Robert Waller.
I remember Mr. Waller. He just passed away a little while back.
Yeah, not long ago, but he told me, a lot of the things like that you explained about character and aspirational leadership and that kind of stuff. He taught me real early. It didn't take with me like it did with you, but a great guy. And that just we didn't get into this. We know you got a wife. How many children you got?
I have 3 daughters. One that's 20, one that's just turned 19, and a 15-year-old.
Wow.
All daughters. Even my dog at home is a girl dog. I have a lot of girls at my house. So
Ever feel lonely?
I actually no, I don't feel lonely. My youngins, they treat me so good. I have been blessed with 3 wonderful daughters.
I think that Nat was probably an anarchist, maybe a member of ISIS.
Hope you got them.
I got him. I watched him fall to his dirty little death. People, I do that though. People think I hate myself. But anyway, your education, you covered that with us. Your background. We're going to step on, take a break right now, and come back, and we're going to talk about what you think your administrative advantages are, if that's
Sure.
all right.
That's
We'll
fine.
be back in a minute. Welcome back to Good News Covington County with our friend Blake Turman, who's running for sheriff of Covington County, and what's going to be, I think, a pretty interesting race before it's over with.
It is.
It's one thing that's interesting is that everybody that's running for sheriff this time is from east of the Yellow River.
That's true.
I don't ever remember that happening before.
I don't think I remember it either.
And
Not
that doesn't say anything bad. But when we were younger men, the Yellow River there was a line of demarcation.
It was.
And
It was.
if you were from one side, you were one way. You the other side. That's changed, thank
It
goodness.
has changed. Thank goodness.
I see before it's over with. I see Opp and Andalusia growing into one community, kind of not a metroplex, maybe we want to call it a suburboplex, that just kind of continuously flows between the two areas, and we build more infrastructure around like that. We, that'd probably be after I'm dead, but I mean, that's kind of what I hope. I hope we're prosperous.
Well, even the rivalry between Opp and Andalusia football it's not what it used to be.
No, and I miss that, Dan.
Oh man, I remember you didn't go to Andalusia and you didn't come to Opp during that time, but as a police officer, I think that's commendable, and I tell you why. Just between the Opp PD and the Andalusia and the Covington County and the Florella's, I would like to see a better communication with those people.
And that's kind of
together.
That's kind of one of the things that I wanted to. I'm glad you brought that up, because I think it's really important that this thing does not become tribal.
Right.
I mean, it's all right for us to have the Bobcat tribe and the Bulldog tribe and the Tigers, and that's okay as long as it's on the field. But I think that some kind of a inter departmental
Right.
cooperation is very important. Somebody has to take leadership
You're
on that.
absolutely right, and I tell you, if I'm elected sheriff, that is one of my top priorities. I have lots of priorities. School resource officers is one of them, but to the communication between the different departments in this county, I want us all to have a meeting, a regular scheduled meeting, where the police chiefs and the sheriff and even our own, we'll bring some people to that meeting, and we'll work together to find out what we can do to help each other in this county.
Right.
Opp has resources, Andalusia has resources, the county has resources, and I want us to pool them together, and let's get the most bang for our buck. If you're going to have weapons training, which every year we have qualifications, let's work together. Let's work. Maybe we can pool our resources and get ammunition at a cheaper price, or
Right.
maybe we can pool our resources and use the same range instructors for different agencies. We do it all the time with the state of Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it. Let's do it with us.
Well, I tell you, I know I've had a little interface with Corey Sperling over there,
Great guy.
and Hank Watney.
I know Hankus very well.
He's about like my cousin.
I'm sorry.
I know, but we go back a long way, and I haven't seen Hank in a long time. But Corey, we had something happen last week over there when I financing a car with nobody buys cars for cash. If they do, they're not people that I can associate with. But the Aviation Federal Credit Union over there, and the lady fell down out in the parking lot.
Right.
And I walked out and saw her, and I went inside and asked the people to call the fire department or whoever, because she was 3 minutes. Not 3 minutes till I heard the sirens.
3 minutes and they were there.
And they were there, and I don't, I made this made this not with any elected official or want to be elected official. That's good. If you want to call it service, that's good service.
That's good service, and that's really serving the people in the community.
And there was a policeman there with them at the same time. It wasn't, there was a fire truck, an ambulance, and a policeman. And that's exemplary service, and I know that. If I were in your position, that'd be the kind of response I'd want to have.
I'm coming from an area where our response times as a trooper are pretty slow. We have a huge area to cover. Well, my plan, if elected sheriff, we're going to break up the county into sectors, and we're going to have shifts that overlap each other in such a way that we can actually increase and be able to respond a whole lot quicker. And an important thing too, if you've got these sectors and the people assigned to that sector, it's paramount that they stay in that sector unless they need to go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. If you have a call where you need 2 deputies, of course, pull one and go there, but try to stay in those sectors. And I just think that's how you're gonna lower these response times is keeping people in these sectors. Op is a lot smaller than Covington County, of course
Yeah.
it would be.
Yeah,
you
well,
know?
yeah,
And,
absolutely.
and they're able to respond quicker, but I think we can, I know that we can lower these response times in Covington County. I know we can.
Well, that would, no matter who's the sheriff, that's a laudable
That's
goal
right.
right there.
And another thing too, guys, on this response, when an officer is responding and everything, they always need to take due regard to the public around them. If you can get there quick enough to save a life, then you get there to save a life. But let's monitor what we're running for and everything, and drive accordingly. And I would hold my guys accountable for that.
Yeah, it doesn't help anybody
If you don't get
have
there,
an
you're not
accident on
helping
the way to an
anybody.
accident. It's just twice as bad. It's not
That's
half
right.
as good. Well, we're gonna have to take a break, and we'll be back in just a minute, folks. This is an interesting conversation. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Good News Covington County. Our interview today is with Brother Blake Turman right here, running for sheriff. He wants to be doing some sheriffing here in Covington County. I joke about that. People don't realize that sheriff in Covington County is the sheriff's office, not the sheriff's department, like a police department. It's a big thing. You know, one of the things I wanted to ask you, and you were talking about technology off camera.
Right.
As I understand it right now, you've got body cams on everybody that's pretty much or
That's pretty much standard everywhere now.
and as I understand it, just bits and pieces here, everybody's finally about on the same radio system.
Right now, there is. Well, I tell you, right now the troopers in this county don't have the same radio system as the county does, but I do believe they've been provided with a radio that they can monitor.
Yeah.
Which is fine. However, citizens can't monitor this new digital radio that we have.
And that's fine with me.
You know, I believe there's some things that a citizen would be okay monitoring, and there's some things that they don't need to monitor. And the truth of the matter is these crime scenes and wreck scenes and stuff, we have to keep them under control. You know, you have to limit the people that come in there. If not, you're going to have a court list a mile long, and we just can't have that.
Growing up in a small town in the South, like I did, and you did too,
Right?
an accident, well, unfortunately, or a fire was an event.
It was an event.
And I thought about it many times that you'd hear a siren, everybody get in the car, let's go to sleep. What happened, you know? And I always think of that line from the Eagles song, where the line says, "Is the head dead yet?" We were all out there trying to see. You know, I hate to say it, pretty bizarre, but that gets in the way of your ability to handle the situation.
It does, but I also want the community to know that I'm okay with them knowing what's going on. You know, you got the digital and you got the analog, and they both have wonderful attributes for each one of them. I would like to see the old analog be used for routine calls and things of that nature, but not in such a way that it impedes or gets in the way of what we really do.
Right.
I know right now there's an issue with a lot of the local volunteer fire departments. They don't have this digital system yet.
Correct.
So they're being dispatched on the old analog system, and there's a response time gap there.
Yeah, lag.
You know, and you know what? 2 minutes is a long time when your house is burning.
You're right.
You know?
You're right.
And I want to sit down with the leaders, with the 911, our communications providers, all these people that we have involved, and I want to sit down and let's work something out. But and another thing, you know, just because you're over the state line doesn't mean we can't help each other.
Right.
Florella's right on the state line, and there's been times when some fire agencies out of a different county, maybe Okaloosa or some, come up there and give a hand. I just want to be able to open up that where we can work together.
Yeah, that's going to take some diplomatic skills
It
there.
is going to take some diplomatic skills, but here's the thing: you just got to unclench your fists and get together and work it out.
I don't know if it's true in law enforcement, but I know it in companies and businesses that I've worked with. And I worked in some pretty large ones that, these people create these little kingdoms around themselves, and they're very proud of that, and they don't want it to, they don't want anybody to bleed over into their area. That's theirs, and they'll almost defend it, when it would be so much better if they'd work with other little kingdoms,
That's right. And I feel the same way with Covenant County would be my kingdom if I was the sheriff. And I'd want the best for
Now, he doesn't
Covenant
want to
County.
be the king.
No, I want to be the king.
Elvis is the king.
Jesus is king.
Well.
That's my king. But that's a whole
stand
nother.
corrected.
That's another interview that I'd be glad to talk to you about. But look, the thing about it, I want to provide for Covenant County in such a way that we are the varsity team.
Amen.
I mean, we are the #1 in this area. But I want to be able to go and look at the resources that we have. If there's things that we don't need, then we don't need them. But if there's some things that we would like to have, and let's just say these radar signs that you see that show people how fast they're going, how great would it be to have one sitting out in a county that we would actually be able to put out in different places. So if you live out on Brooklyn Road and you're having a problem with speeders out there, maybe we can pool our resources together and work together and use these things. There's grants out there. We can get this stuff paid for. And I'd like to see that happen. It would help everybody in the long run. Another thing I would like to see is with our school resource officers.
Took words out of my mouth.
And I want to strengthen that program. I know Strawn needs 2 resource officers. Every school in this county needs their own resource officer that is there whenever the doors of that school are open. If they have an event, that resource officer needs to be there. And I also want to use our reserves and our posse members to back up these resource officers at these events. If you have a ball game or something, they always go to these ball games. Well, let's encourage it. The more uniforms I see out there, the safer I feel.
Amen.
And as far as classroom security, there has to be drills, and these drills have to be just as common as a fire drill or a weather drill. They got to be done, and there needs to be some funding put in place to make our schoolrooms safer. And I have started conversations with people around this county that are willing to help me raise funds to make these schoolrooms safer with special locks that's put in place. I was in Opp High School the other day, and Mr. Hightower was showing me around. That school has got it figured out. You have to be popped in and popped out, electronically. It's a little inconvenient, but it's keeping our kids safe. What's it worth to you?
Yeah. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in the next segment. We'll be back in just a few. Welcome back to Good News Covenant County, a special edition. Ain't this a pretty card? Red, white, and blue. Blake Turman, running for sheriff, Covenant County. Been here interviewing with us. We're so thankful to have him here again, Blake, and for the ideas that you've shared. One of the things, when we left, we were talking about school resource officers. In fact, that's where we left. You were talking about putting deputies in these school resources, like in Strawn or Rose Hill or Fleta or maybe even Lockhart. I don't know that some of Red Level.
They all need
at least one, I think. I think it's kind of odd, and I don't mean this in a negative way. I try to be positive about everything, but I think it's kind of odd that they walk over here to the courthouse over here, and I pick on them. They're mighty fine folks over there, doing an awful lot of service for us. But there's at least 2 armed senior deputies over there.
That's right.
And there's metal detectors over there. And there's a response package. I've never seen it, but I guarantee you there's a response package that the police department has for something that goes wrong.
Sure.
If it goes wrong over there, it's already pre-planned.
And if there's not, there will be one.
Yeah, I bet there is. Well, they ought to be. I think the guy our police chief does a pretty conscientious job.
Think so too.
But I've been wrong about a lot of other things in life too, and I'm not going to stop now being wrong. But it occurs to me that our post offices are hardened, the banks are hardened. You go to a federal courthouse, and they're hardened and they're guards, and you go through an airport.
They're all hardened.
And
Unfortunately, that's the sign of the times that we live in.
But the most precious asset I think that we have as a nation is our future, and our children are our future.
Absolutely.
And we put them in a position where they've got no protection. In fact, many times we make it public that they're in a bad position in terms of being able to defend themselves.
That's right. At these schools, while I was at OP the other day, and I was speaking with Mr. Hightower, and he was showing me their plan that they have. How they pop people in and out with the electronic locks and things like that. It was really nice. It was different than what I was raised to seeing from OP High School. But he had a plan, and it looks to be effective.
Right.
I want to see something like that in all Covington County schools. And there's funding, there's programs out there to get the money to do this. And I am excited to looking into this and getting it done.
Right.
I've had several people that I go to church with. They're totally willing to come out here and let's work together and let's find some local funding to provide part of the resources. And there's other grants that we can find these resources in and everything. So it's not. I don't think it's going to be a huge strain on the taxpayers. But even if it is, guys, these are our children.
Right.
We need to protect them 100%.
We protect the people that make the laws. The people that enforce the laws, like you protect the people that make the laws. But nobody protects the children.
Correct.
And it's just kind of an odd.
I think the mindset is there to protect the children. We just got to facilitate the protection. That's what we've got to do.
I agree. And
if you have a school resources officer, he needs to be on site at all times.
Yeah.
At all times. If you have something that you feel like you need to pull that school resource officer away, then you better be putting another one there while he's gone.
Right.
And if that be the case, then just leave them there. I really feel that each school needs their own school resource officer, and they need their own supervisor managing these resource officers, keeping an eye on them. If you have one calling sick, let's fill in for them. If you have one that has to, let's just say you have to transport a ruly juvenile to someplace, Dothan, or even up to the courthouse and everything, that happens too, then we need to have that in effect so we don't have to leave our schools unmanned.
Yeah.
And, Strawn is a really big school. It's got a huge campus.
Yeah, it does.
You need 2 officers there,
Well, they've got a lot of students up there. It's not just
There
big
is Strawn's a growing school. Has been for a while.
Community. I look for Strawn to incorporate and not be long doing it. They're not doing it now because they don't want to pay any taxes. But that's just my opinion. I haven't polled anybody, but and they've got pretty good protection apparently, or feel secure.
Right.
But the incident in Texas at that church last winter showed us the vulnerability that these little rural communities have to people that are set on.
And I'm glad, John, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I want to be able to facilitate the clergy of the church to do what they think they need to do to keep their churches protected. And that would be provide a program that they can send people to, whether it's their deacons or some trustees of the church and everything, and let's actually see about training them to be able to look for something, what to look for, what not to look for, not to hold everybody in contempt, because nobody wants to be held in contempt, but let's keep an eye out for bad guys.
Yeah.
And the thing is, a bad guy looks just like me, or looks just like you never know, but you got to be able to look and see what he's doing, and I think we can do that. I know we can do it.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, we're about to run out of time here with Blake. I want you to feel free to come back and talk with us.
Great.
It's been, I think, real revealing and educational for all of us, and I hope it's the same way for our viewers.
just guys, y'all give me a chance to serve you on June the 5th.
All right, folks, we'll check with you later. Thanks for watching.